Oh, hey, everybody.
Oh, hey.
We're here. We're live. There are four of us this week. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to You Have to Watch This podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devin.
And joining us from Nerfherders Assemble is friend of the show, Josh. Josh, welcome.
What's up? How's it going?
It's going very well. As our listeners know, Devin is on probation from having picks. So to fill in Devin's picks for the next few weeks, we are having guests on. And Josh is the first one who actually reached out to me before we put Devin on probation from the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
I saw it coming.
He was very eager to be here to talk about today's film, which is The Raid 2, which we will be getting into shortly. But before we do that, we'd like to talk about things that we've seen recently, get caught up on pop culture of the last week or so. So, Josh, since you're our guest, have you seen anything recently that's not Raid related?
That's not Raid related. It was my birthday weekend this past weekend, so we went out and saw what was the movie I told you we saw?
Barbarian.
Barbarian. Has anybody here seen that film yet?
I've never even heard of it.
Okay. I've only heard good things about it, but I know absolutely nothing about it except for what I see on this poster.
Well, one of my favorite reviews for this film, it's not spoilery. Well, it could be spoilery, but it was, I fucking hate this film. It has nothing to do with Conan the Barbarian. And I love that review, but I loved it. It's a very indie horror movie with I'm not going to even say the cast, because depending on what trailer you might have watched, you might not even know who's all in it. They really kept the plot finer details close to the vest on this one, and I loved it. I only saw the first half of the first trailer, and I thought this was a very intriguing movie, so I went in as blind as possible. And my wife is a big fan of Bill Skarsgård, so I got her to come with me, and I don't think normally she would have gone to a horror movie, and this movie just took me places I did not expect to go, and I enjoyed it so much. So we saw that in theaters, and then we also saw a classic. We put in Meet Joe Black, which I hadn't seen in a long time, and for the birthday weekend we watched that. So yeah, good 2 movies to watch over the weekend.
Yeah, the cast for this has me very interested in it. I'm gonna have to check this out once I get the chance to.
It looks great.
Yeah. It's different. It's different. I was not I unfortunately predict a lot of things. I try not to, but I predict a lot of things in movies. I did not predict where this was going, and so that alone made me happy that I went. So yeah.
Am I allowed to know what type of horror movie it is without ruining the plot? Or if you tell me the like, is it like ghosts? Is it serial killer? Is it like a Saw thing? Or will telling me ruin it? Because from that, I got nothing. I have no idea what kind of movie this is. I'm curious.
It's not a ghost movie. It's not a ghost movie.
Okay.
It's man, I just don't want to tell you.
Is this the one that has to do with a certain thing that I'm going to be using in a few weeks when we're in New York? Like a certain service?
Certain service.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah,
okay.
Airbnb.
Okay.
Yeah, that one I actually read on the IMDb page just now.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard.
I'll tell you this, which was funny, because when we got home, Maddie was like, "All right, after we saw that, I need something light. I need to watch something with a little." So we turned on Netflix. Literally, the first movie that came up was called Love in the Villa or something like that. It's the exact same plot of the movie, but of romance. It's literally two people get booked in the same place, and crazy things ensue, except one's a horror and one's a comedy. And even she looked at it and she's like, "That's the movie we just watched." So
it's very Volcano Dante's Peak type thing going on.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Ryan, how about you? Have you watched anything recently?
With this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. I picked up another animated show that's directed towards adults on Hulu. There's a show called Little Demon, and I have fallen in love with it. It is a Canadian American cross-teamed developed show. It has Danny DeVito, Lacey DeVito, and Aubrey Plaza in it are the voices of the three main characters.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much a 13-year-old girl comes of age, realizes that she is the Antichrist, and her mother is a Wiccan, and her father is obviously Satan. And and it's a normal like preteen discovering who they are, a mom that's trying to learn how to be an actual mom, and a dad who is Satan who tries to learn to be an average dad, and it is hysterical. I think I've watched every episode about 3 times so far, and the new episode releases tomorrow, so it's every Wednesday there's a new episode, and it's on Hulu. Okay. It's it's weekly, and it's good.
Yeah, from what I've seen of this show, this is on my list to check out because I don't actually have like access to Rick and Morty right now. So like this is gonna have to fill that void for me for now. I'm really looking forward to seeing this. So,
is the humor like Rick and Morty? Because I mean, it looks a little bit like Ugly Americans to me from first brush screenshots.
To be perfectly honest, I don't watch enough Rick and Morty to know if it's like Rick and Morty. So to put the humor in perspective, there's a chatty Kathy neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
The mom, and she's always coming over to talk to the mom. The mom is a dead no serious, like any type of small talk makes her rage out. And there's a fight between the mom and the daughter. The mom tries to be more of like a PTA mom, so she puts anger leeches on her skin that the leeches suck out rage whenever she gets angry, and it gets to the point where the leeches take over her body because she has so many of them.
That's fun.
What combination of drugs is best for this show?
Oh, none. This is a completely sober show. The first episode, the pilot, you might, I mean, the pilot's a little strong. The humor in it, is really strong. The rest of the episodes are a bit more like subdued compared to the pilot. But if you like the pilot, you're going to love the rest of the show.
Fair.
Anything with Aubrey Plaza in it is on my radar for sure. And then anything that pisses off the ultra conservative religious groups on Facebook also.
Yes.
I'll be checking that out.
Oh yeah.
This was the show that a lot of people got angry about because it's Hulu, so technically it's a Disney property. So like people were like, Disney's releasing a show that has to do with like the spawn of Satan. It's like, yeah, but it's on Hulu. Like,
it's on FXX. Like,
yeah. No. So yeah.
This is what happens when you have monopolies in the entertainment industry. Like, you're not going to be happy with everything everyone releases. Exactly. Devin, have you seen anything recently?
Yes, but nothing that I prepared for this segment.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say I'm going to take your spot because you told me you watched nothing.
You can, but also I saw Phantom of the Opera over the weekend, and I have this Phantom of the Opera teddy bear to show for it. That's all I got. That's my big event.
Nothing prepared to show for it, but he pulls a bear off of off from the side of the screen.
It's just with me always.
I get you.
Yeah. I had a pretty busy weekend, and I was able to squeeze in 2 movies at the movie theater, surprisingly.
Wow. Let me guess. Clerks 3 was one of them.
Clerks 3 was one of them. I will get to
jealous.
that. I had an awkward amount of time to kill before the Fathom events, Clerks 3 at 7 o'clock. So I had a Top Gun Maverick amount of time to kill.
Okay.
So I saw Top Gun Maverick in theaters before. Like, I guess it's still in theaters. I finally got around to seeing it, and now I get the hype.
This was your first time.
This is my first time seeing it. I had never seen it.
Oh, wow.
So
Wait,
this
you've seen it, Josh?
Oh yes, like 4 times. I
What?
love that film. Yeah, that's good.
I thought I was gonna have the theater to myself, but some grandmother and her like 7-year-old grandson came in like at the last
Aw.
minute. I was like, okay, well, and then the kid just didn't stop talking, and I was like, okay, whatever. Like, not my worst theater experience of that night.
Yeah.
But no, I really enjoyed Top Gun. I'm really glad I saw this on the big screen. I cannot wait to make you guys watch it on your TVs, because this is going to be on the list here soon for the show once it's
Good.
available.
And you still haven't seen it, Ryan, right?
Regrettably, I haven't seen it yet. No.
Yeah. But the other picture I saw was Clerks 3, which was the worst cinematic experience I've had in my life, and it has nothing to do with the movie.
What?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Why?
So between movies, I go out to the snack bar to get my large soda refilled because I'm economic like that. Like, I bought the large soda so I can get it
Sure.
refilled for
Well
Clerks.
done.
A guy in a movie shirt comes out and asks for the manager. There is a cricket in theater 4 where they were showing Clerks. So by the time I get seated, the manager and like 2 employees are looking for this cricket along the wall. And then about 5 minutes later, they just give up. And the manager announces to the theater, we can't seem to find the cricket. It went into the wall. If it hinders your cinematic experience, please see us afterwards for a rain check. At the end of the movie, somebody in the crowd just yelled, "That was the loudest damn cricket I've ever heard in my life." The whole movie, it just went. And Devin, you'll appreciate this. I am 99% sure this is the same theater as the Cloverfield incident with the Tic Tacs.
Was it?
I think so.
Oh, that theater's cursed. You just can't
Yeah.
go there anymore, man.
It was that loud. It overpowered the movie. Really?
Well, there's a lot of moments in this movie that are quiet, and because it's not a straight up comedy. Like, there's a lot of.
I guess it's like watching it with The Quiet Place or something. You just shut up.
Yeah,
I get that. Yeah.
Like, they're like in the movie, it's about Randall having a heart attack and then making a movie. So like the scenes where he's having a heart attack, like, and it's like somber and stuff. Like, you just have a cricket going, and it's like. It took me out of it. I talk about it a lot on Victims and Villains this week. I talked to Josh about. We gave a full review of Clerks 3. That being said, minus the cricket, I enjoyed the film. I have issues with it. I think Kevin Smith made some different choices than I would have made, but it's worth checking out. I'm excited to have you guys watch this as well in the near future. And the cricket was so bad, I did not stick around for the documentary at the end. There's like a 20-minute documentary for the Fathom events that I didn't know about, but I was so livid. I got my rain check, and then I got my rain check, and then I told the people behind the snack bar that also the projection was off. So it was like the screen was not centered right. Because when they have the Fathom event stuff on the top and bottom before the movie started, I saw that it was cut off. I was like, this isn't going to be right the whole time. But this is my one chance to see the movie, so I'm going to have to take it.
That would have bothered me so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the projector would have bothered me more than the cricket, but I wasn't there for the cricket. Like, I feel like I could tune it out, but I probably couldn't.
Yeah.
Cricket cut.
Yeah, it was bad.
Ugh.
But
Woof.
yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the raid.
Yes.
Josh, I'm going to throw it to you, and you can tell us a little bit about the Raid 2.
The Raid 2. Yeah, so a little bit of background. I served in the military. I lived in Korea for a year, and we were so cut off from American cinema that if we had a little movie theater on base, but if we wanted to see any movies, it was like 6 months to get it to our theater. So there was a nice little guy off base who would sell DVDs of someone's camcorder or something, and that was really the only way you could see movies. So I would go to him every weekend, and I would get one American movie and one Korean movie, and he introduced me to so many foreign films, and I just had never branched out like that. So I always continued to do so, and for the longest time, like Tony Jaa films were like my favorite martial arts stuff, and And then The Raid came out, which is not a Korean film, but it's just without that background, I don't think I ever would have looked for non-English films. The Raid came out the same year as Dread, and I remember a lot of people were like, "Oh, Dread and The Raid, they're the same movie because they're all about going up a building and action." And I watched it and I really liked it, and I'm like, "Man, this is cool." And then The Raid 2 came out, and apparently it had come up with such a cult following that it was showing at a theater in Nebraska, not dubbed, on its regular opening weekend. And I'm like, The Raid 2 is premiering in a theater in Nebraska. I have to go see this. And I remember walking out of that film feeling like this was the godfather of martial arts films. It blew me away so much. It was so much bigger in terms of plot, runtime, scope than the first Raid movie, and it's forever been like my favorite martial arts movie for so many different reasons. And when I heard you hadn't seen it, I was like, we gotta do this movie.
Yeah, this is one of those films I haven't seen, but I've heard so much about. Like, fight scenes always seem to be compared to The Raid. Like, why can't Marvel do action like the Raid movies, or like a lot of film podcasts that I listen to, going back to like CinemaSins, back when they had a podcast I actually listened to, they would talk about The Raid a lot. But yeah, so these films had a reputation for me before going into them. Full disclosure, I had intended to watch both films, but with I didn't get a chance to watch Raid 1. I only watched Raid 2. So
get out of here. You're gone.
Yeah.
Has anybody here seen Raid 1?
No.
No?
I'm being a hypocrite.
I've seen Dread, if that counts.
It's pretty darn close. I
just want to bring this up quick since we brought up Dread. The three of us play a game. It's kind of like Wordle, but with movies, called Framed. And spoiler alert for today, it was Dread.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
I have to look that up. I love Wordle and I love movies. I could probably do well.
And you can also go back and do all of them because they archive them all right there, so you can go back and do each single one of them. I'm on like a 42-day streak of getting it right. Okay. So,
fun trivia for the Raid 2. He wanted to make this movie first. The director, oh crap, I'm blanking on his name now. Gareth Evans. This was his movie that he wanted to make, and whoever paid for this was like, it's just too big, and we need you to lay some groundwork first. We need you to bring us into it with a simpler film. So they came out with The Raid first, and it really is it's a bottle film about the main character and a group of cops going into an apartment complex to get the guy up top. So a lot of people were like, it's the same movie as Dread without Dread, and it's not, but it is, and with exceptional martial arts. And so once that movie kind of hit it off, then they're like, all right, you can do the film you wanted. So this film was always on the radar for him. It's the film he initially wanted to do. He just had to wait a little bit to do it.
Now, do you think we did ourselves a disservice by not watching the first one? Because I feel like I picked up the plot of the first one pretty quick in the opening bit. Like, I kind of got who was in charge of who the villain at the top was. I got who the good guy was. I got how they were moving. But like, are there moments in this where you're like, yeah, this wouldn't have hit as hard?
I think just the beginning, because the beginning of this film, I can't remember. Do you guys talk spoilers at all, or
we can?
We'll do spoilers. Yeah.
Okay. The beginning of this film, two primary things happen. One, the brother is killed in the very first scene, which is this gorgeous scene in those fields, which to open on a scene like that after the grunginess of the like Section 8 apartment complex of the first movie was just like, oh my gosh, like it's just gorgeous. It looks amazing. But him dying and then them killing off that corrupt cop in the beginning that was like the whole point of the first movie, was not only to get the bad guy, but once they realized the corrupt cop was corrupt, our main character took everything to get him out of there alive. So for them just to kill him in the opening scenes of this movie was shocking. But then once you get past that part, yeah, you can pretty much pick it up. So I don't think you'd need to, but it was a good introduction to the character. You knew that he was a badass going into this film because of that, but I think you could learn pretty quick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he establishes himself as that pretty quick in this movie.
One thing I noticed about that opening shot of the fields, and this might just be me because I was shooting in fields on Sunday for a project, the camera seemed to be at like a weird angle, like the horizon wasn't straight, and I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I noticed it, and I just wanted to point it out.
It irritated you from the first frame. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, is it like a Dutch angle on purpose? Like, is it supposed to unnerve you?
I don't know. Like, it seemed like I don't know.
I feel like, okay, so granted, like I said, I did not see the first one, but we've established I've seen Dread, so I'll just go off of that. If you're going from a movie like those two, and then you're gonna go straight into like a field, but it's supposed to be like, oh look, we're outside, I can breathe, but I still don't feel comfortable, then a Dutch angle in that scene, if you're watching Raid and then Raid 2 back to back, makes sense, because that's not a good scene.
No.
So I could definitely So I could definitely see a Dutch angle being used in that to kind of throw people off, to be like, yeah, no, you're not supposed to be comfortable right now.
Yeah. There is a lot of purposeful Dutch angles, angles in the rest of the film. So that was probably, you're probably onto something there. That's probably why they did that.
Yeah.
So I want to know. I mean, I'm curious. What did you guys think of the movie? Like, I know that we're like kind of hopping in the first scene right away, but like, I want to know impressions, if that's okay.
I had a journey with watching this movie, because I started off
cricket.
No, it was a crackle.
Oh no!
So I started watching this on, I think it was Crackle, right? Is that what I sent you guys to?
Pluto TV.
Pluto TV.
Pluto.
Okay. Potato. Pluto TV had it, and they had it running at 3 hours and 10 minutes with all the commercials. I got through two commercial breaks. I was like, nope, not doing this. So I ended up renting it from iTunes, and restarted, like picking it up where I left off. And then I had to split it into two viewings because I was like falling asleep, like this isn't fair. So then I woke up this morning, and to make sure I wasn't on my phone and paying attention to the subtitles, I watched it on my phone for a good chunk of it. Just so I could know what was just so I could focus in on it, because I was having trouble focusing on the subtitles and getting distracted with my phone. So I was like, the best way to get rid of that is watch it on my phone.
It's a long. Did you watch it dubbed or not?
I couldn't. The rental did not have the dubbed. I hoped it did, so I didn't have to watch it. I watched it subbed. So it was reading the subtitles that was.
Yeah, that's all. That's the only way I've seen it as well.
Yeah.
And to your point, 30 hours and 10 minutes with commercials is a lot, but the film itself is what, 2 hours and 30 minutes, and that was a significant uptick from the hour and a half that the first one was. It was clear this was a bigger story in scope. I think there's probably some things that they could have cut out, and they did cut out a lot. There's a lot of deleted scenes for this, but it was a much bigger film in scope and story than the first one, and I think that was what blew me away initially, just because I didn't go into it expecting a full gangster mafia Godfather-esque type story with all the martial arts to match, and that compared to the simplicity of the first film always kind of blew me away.
Yeah. So I rented it from Amazon, and I got the dubbed version of it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, so, and it's something I'm going to get into later because I also had the subtitles on, and whoever did the dubbing, it is one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to doing dubbing, and why I still haven't watched that show on Netflix yet. That's
Squid Game.
That one.
Oh, okay.
I enjoyed it. I did, except for that rant I'm going to go on later about how they dubbed it and everything.
I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah. No, I haven't been this angry going into one of these shows in a while. So
oh goodness,
I can't wait.
Wow, I'm honored to have brought this to the group. Okay.
So my history with this movie is when I heard we were watching it this week, I was like, whoa, I don't know what this is. I've never even heard of it. I looked up The Raid, just the first one, and saw the tagline, 1 ruthless crime lord, 20 elite cops, 30 floors of hell. And I went, oh, this is a bad movie he's making us watch because he likes bad movies. So I went into this going, I'm going to watch a fun, bad movie. It's going to be great. And was immediately blown away. I think one of my new levels of regret in life is whatever the heck I was doing in 2014, not going to go see this movie in theaters, because I feel like this would have been phenomenal on the big screen.
I will own up to this, Devin.
Yeah?
8 years ago today, in 2014, you were at my wedding, so I feel like maybe I'm responsible for you not seeing The Raid 2.
Alan, I'm so mad at you.
It was a one-day release on Alan's wedding in 2014. And that
well, it was like Fathom Events. It played for that whole week, but you had the bachelor party the week before, and
it was too much. So I'm mad at you now for me not seeing this. I love this movie. I'm going to show this movie to everyone now, and I'm definitely going to watch the movie again. And then for Ryan's point, and to Alan's, I started it on Pluto TV. For obvious reasons, I got furious at Pluto TV, switched over to Amazon, started out in subs, switched over into dubs, and went, oh no, and then switched it back to the original language just with the subtitles.
Yeah, wow, when I tried to find it on Pluto, it said that it wasn't playing in my region.
That's because I was watching it. It was too busy over here. Sorry.
It was on my Xbox, so there wasn't any VPN thing going on.
That's weird.
Strange. Huh.
So
I use VPN into St. Louis if that makes you feel better.
So I have a question. The runtime for this, because I'm looking it up because there were some things you said, and then I was like, on Amazon, the version that I watched was 150 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That sounds right about?
Yeah, about 2.5 hours, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's a long movie.
Yeah, okay. I just want to... Yeah, okay, we're good. I just wanted to be sure of that, because you said about that there was stuff, that there was stuff cut out of it and everything, and I just wanted to make sure that, I was like, did I stumble across, an extended cut or something? Because that was a long movie.
Well, what did they cut out? I'm curious about this. What did they cut out from this movie?
There was some extra action scenes. There was a full shoot 'em up scene. It was just you can find them online. There's a couple extra dialogue scenes and one whole one group over here, just machine gun shoot 'em up thing with swords. That was crazy. It's a crazy violent. It's a cool scene, but yeah, there was enough in the film already. So
I could definitely see that being part of the whole gang war part.
Yeah.
When there were, because there really wasn't a lot to that, because they showed maybe two or three hits, and they were like, "Oh, we're in a full-fledged gang war," and I'm like, "Really? There's only what?"
Well, the gangs are 5 people, Ryan. All right. They're baby gangs.
I don't know, Devin. I think I need to talk to you about Asian structured gang culture, because it would put a few Fortune 500 companies to shame.
Wow. Never mind then.
So I think the two biggest strengths of this film are the technical aspects of it and the martial arts. But I do really love the plot. So I wanted to get your sense of, was the story enough to hold your attention? Do you think it? I mean, it's a pretty complex story. Did you enjoy the story, or were you more just in it for the action?
I went into this expecting to just be in it for the action, but I found the story kind of fascinating, albeit a little bit confusing at times. But I think I got a good enough sense from everything going on, like, to follow what was happening. I really enjoyed the story. Like, it does give me like Godfather type feels in moments. So I was pleasantly surprised by the story itself.
Brian, what did you think?
I just find it funny you're jumping right to me before you say what you think.
I want to know. I want like the vitriol from you. I feel like my answers are going to be so boring this whole round.
That's fine. I loved the angle of the undercover like cop, like the whole thing going awry and him just being mad about everything. If it was one of those things where like he went into it expecting to be in prison for, like maybe like 3 or 4 years, I don't think I would have wanted his character to do well as much as he did, because as soon as they show him like walk out and he's ripping the wire out of his coat, like at that point I'm just like, man, I hope he kills every single one of them. And he did, so yay.
Again, boring answer here. I loved it. 10 out of 10. It had me enthralled the whole time. I love the notion of like the undercover thing. I love the betrayal. I love the crime lord and like the terrible son that like seems nice but then gets gradually more terrible. You're like, right, he's a criminal. That's why I don't like him. I just love it. Love.
Yeah, it was very like Infernal Affairs, Departed-esque with the undercover aspects and how he's supposed to be loyal but also like keep his soul as part of it. I mean, everything from that son was such an asshole, and he gets worse throughout. But for him to just give everything, I mean, from the mud fight scene to the very end, just to give everything to protect him until it all falls out. Like, that was especially. I think that karaoke scene was so hard to watch. You know, it was just like you could tell he was like. Was really resisting to step in more, and
but I like that was when he chose to plant the bug, though. Like after that scene, he's like, "All right, I got to do this. I'm gonna do it now," because he's mad and needed to get back at him. I felt.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and then there was another scene later on where I was like, "Oh, hang on a second. I feel like that's what he was supposed to be." So you have like the son's father, like the actual like lord of everything, and he has his like assistant there, like the guy that kind of like acts like his conscience, and that really didn't stand out to me until like the very end where that character leaves the film. Where I was like, oh, that's why the father wanted to bring this guy from prison into the family and thank him personally, because he knows that his son is going to need like someone to actually act like his conscience. And that's what and so when his son goes off the deep end and takes care of his dad, that's when I was like, oh, that's the tragic story in this. Like the father wanted his son to like gain that like assistant, that trusted, like assistant, friend, conscious person for him, and that's what, thinking back to it, that's what happened in that karaoke bar, because things could have gotten really out of hand and been a really bad issue, but he was able to kind of like calm him down and be like, hey, that's enough, like get these girls out of here, like this can't go any further.
Somebody left their conscience at Clerks 3 this weekend because I heard it the whole damn movie.
Was that also a Pinocchio reference, Alan?
Yes,
well done.
It was.
Well done.
Disney's Pinocchio now on Disney Plus.
I loved a lot of the technical choices, the camera work in this film, from the mud fight, which was just glorious. That whole, I mean, that was a beautiful fight, and it was so like well choreographed and messy, and like it was great. But to other like small things from. Like when they went to that pornographer's office to like confront him, and just some of the things that they did in that with the curtain, and then with the little mob boss like running down the table, and then the camera like following him through the window.
Yeah.
The car chase, where if you look at the behind the scenes stuff, they literally like pass the camera through the car to get some of those shots, and it was just so clean and crisp in the finished product. I was always blown away by the camera work in this film.
I will find myself in the near future going back and rewatching this just for that, like putting it on the background and just watching the scenes, like seeing how they did it, like trying to figure it out, because the cinematography is great in this. But what I'm even more impressed with is just the editing and how it flows so well, because the action in this is so well cut that you can still follow every single action, every single punch leads to the next cut, and it all makes so much sense, instead of just like cutting away fast and not being able to tell what, like Marvel gets a lot of punchy, fighty. This is like you could like map out the whole action sequence and tell what they did in order, and I think this definitely does set the bar for action in cinema.
Well, I was gonna like call it the John, like essentially like a John Wick, but I feel like John Wick almost overcorrects. Like John Wick gives you these like really long, wide shots of them, and these ones do the cuts very, very well. I think where you can still follow it, and it's not like, okay, fine, here's a long shot of this scene so you know what's happening. It's like, no, we'll just edit in a way that makes sense.
There's a lot of that in Asians, in Asian films. I remember watching a lot of Bruce Lee stuff, with my dad. Now, granted, it wasn't this technical, but it's kind of like where this film is. You can see where it was in the Bruce Lee films, where they were then to where this film is. There's a natural progression of how they film action, and even in like when I was in high school, I stayed up late, and on like the Sci-Fi Channel, they would show randomly like B and C and D level like kung fu movies from like the 80s and the 70s, and even them with like where you could see the rope that was on the actors holding them up. Still, the camera work was excellent when it came to the fight scenes, and I think that finally that style of filming action is starting to work its way over into like American mainstream cinema, and it's a good thing, because they've been doing it the best since Godzilla, almost, I would say, like that era.
It's probably fair.
I agree. This wasn't the 14 cuts to get over a fence that take so, but there were cuts. It wasn't just like hold the camera here, fight until you're done fighting. So yeah, stylistically, it was amazing. And the fight choreography, again, going behind the scenes to see that they had to learn to hit each other lightly, because otherwise they found that with this form of martial arts, it didn't look right if they weren't making contact. So they fought and they were touching each other when they were hitting, but they had to do it. They worked so much to do it perfectly so that they weren't hurting each other, but they were making contact. And I mean, any type of, it's a dance, it's whatever, but just memorizing all of that to get it so perfectly, especially on the extended fight, like that kitchen fight scene was the finale of all boss fights. It was ridiculous. And for them to, have to memorize that and get it so well done perfectly that it looks real, it's pretty commendable.
So how much of this movie was practical effect then? Especially if they're not if they're actually hitting each other. Were there many CG moments in this, or was most of this all practical?
I don't know about that. I imagine the blood was the most of the CG stuff, but yeah. And of course the perfect skills of the bat dude, with his paw.
Oh yeah.
That was just like, as grounded as this film was, they had to have like two villains that were like comic book style villains, but they were still cool. One kills you with a baseball and a baseball bat, and the other one has hammers. But they were still great.
What I want to know about the baseball guy is that he always said, like, well, he said it to the one guy, and then he asked the main character for the ball back. And when the one guy said no, he was like, wrong answer. I'm thinking, he's there to kill the guy regardless. So is it like a cleaner death he gives you if you give the ball back? Like, if, is that what it is?
It would have done 9 innings first and then killed him.
Yeah. But
precision, yeah.
But I mean, because I'm always interested in martial arts and like the different types, because like I didn't take karate when I was a kid. I took taekwondo, so I was like in like a weird little sect of like martial arts when it comes to like what people think of it as like mainstream. But because of that, I've always been interested in like the different types. And the one thing that I found very interesting when I looked it up is that the form that they use in these movies, the first one and also in this one, it's a martial arts that does equally well in ground grappling, hand-to-hand kicking, and then weapons. So it actually has like 10 or 12, and in one article I saw, it said that there was close to like 50 different sub-styles of the type of fighting that they were doing in this movie. And what I loved about that boss fight at the end, I'm just going to call it that because that's what it was in the kitchen. And I hate to show myself more as an average American than I already am, but I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z nut. And one of the things that I like about that show is that the characters love fighting. That's what they like to do. And in the fights, when they find someone who's at equal strength and skill that they are, they actually have fun during the fights, regardless if one of them's going to die at the end, and they know that, because they enjoy the challenge, they enjoy the skill of fighting against someone that actually gives them a challenge. And that's what I saw in that last fight. So as far as I'm concerned, it was Goku and Vegeta going at it.
Yeah.
In that scene, I mean, it was great to see them smirking at each other, and like at the beginning, just kind of like feeling their way out, and the fact that the one guy didn't bust out the knives until halfway through. Again, like Dragon Ball Z, he changed form, he powered up, and he didn't do that off the bat because he wanted to beat the guy at the same level that he was being attacked at, and he only went for the knives when he was put into a corner. I absolutely loved everything about that end fight.
Well, and also the white kitchen getting bloodied, the fact that fight starts with no music, and then the longer it goes, the more the music starts to build up to this huge fanfare of an ending. It's a long fight. Like, just going back and rewatching it, I'm like, it's everything. Like, you go through motions while you're watching that fight, to where the music and the blood and everything and the knives coming out, it brings you to a head for the final bits of it. So yeah, that fight was amazing. And coming off the two scenes before that, he beat Hammer Girl and the ball guy, which was cool. And then right before that, he beat a shit ton of dudes in the warehouse, and that was fun to watch. So it's just this non-stop action, and yet somehow they still find a way to make it creative, and the editing choices makes it so that you're not just, oh my god, okay, another scene. It's not overload, and it's not boring, and that's a feat in itself.
I think my favorite thing about the ending of this movie is when he goes back through the warehouse and the guys are just starting to like move again. Yeah. And you're like, okay, so he didn't kill all of them, but they're going to be hurting. Like you can see just the way they're moving, like they're in pain. Like he messed them up pretty well.
Yeah.
And part of me was like, okay, are they going to attack again, or are they just going to lay there? And they just kind of lay there, and I like that. So
it's one thing that this movie did during the fights that, like, I knew that I was going to like this movie when during the first couple, like, fight things that they did just in general in the movie, I cringed at, like, what they were doing. As soon as I do that during an action movie for, like, a fight, I know that I'm into it. Because there were certain things that, like, during the mud fight, during the mud wrestling scene, I'll just say it that way, I don't care. During the mud wrestling scene, like, I've seen a bunch of prison movies. I've seen movies with a bunch of prison scenes. I've seen people shanked in films more times than I can count. I've never really cringed at it happening like I did in this movie. Because even though everything's happening crazy fast, like, if someone gets shanked 7 times, you hear it 7 times. And that's where the cringe is coming from. And even, like, the girl with her hammers, where she put in the 2 claws in the end and then literally ripped down someone's arm.
Yeah, that was the worst. Not only do you get stabbed or shanked, but then they drag it. Yeah, it's like, Gore in this, there is a lot of gore in this, and they don't cut traditionally. I mean, the first scene, like, it cuts, but you see part of that dude's face go away because of the shotgun. And then the final scene, they do not cut. The dude's face is gone, and that's a very practical effect. I remember watching a behind the scenes of that, and it looks like, normally I'm not the type of guy that, I want to see a face get obliterated by a shotgun, but that is a gorgeous shot, and they don't shy away from the violence in this. And the end of Bat Boy, how they do that with the hit, and then the camera spins. And when it comes back around, it's a little farther out, but you can see the bat sunken into that dude's face. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
it just filmed so well. I loved so many pieces like that.
I was just thinking about it, Devin. I think I know one of the CG moments during the action sequence.
Tell me.
It's when the main character takes the automatic pistol and shoots the motorcycle driver right into the in the mask, because
the trigger.
He just squeezes the trigger, and then you could see the front of the helmet just, like, disintegrate. But what they showed of the face, that had to have been CGI, because that was just like hamburger. It was just
That's fair.
It might have just been. It might have just been hamburger.
True.
It's Mayor McCheese. So, real quick, so we talked about it really quickly. We're getting towards the end of the podcast. I need to know, what did you guys think of the ending? Because, per usual, I thought it was perfect. I am not going to say a bad word about this movie because I was entirely blown away. No, I'm done. Ah! What do you guys think?
This kind of gets into what I need to get off, like, what I need to get out. Like, I've calmed down a little bit, so I think I can do this kind of quickly.
Okay.
But when you dub a foreign film, read the subtitles.
Oh, sure.
That go with the translation. I don't care if there are words coming through the speakers when the lips aren't moving. I want what's said in the subtitle, not what's made to fit the lips, to fit the storyline.
Oh, no. Did they add dubs to the quiet part?
No.
Okay, good.
No. This is what I'm saying. Read what they need to do is have the actors read the subtitle. I don't care if what's being said and the lips don't line up.
Yeah.
What's on the subtitles needs to be said. I don't want scenes where, and I wrote down a ton of them, but I'm not going to go through them. They were, okay, so when the guy with the sunglasses is making his pitch to the son.
Yeah.
And he says that like he wants his own part of land. They can run the city side by side, but he wants land like to himself. Okay? The translation in the subtitles doesn't say side by side. And it doesn't say that he like the context of the conversations change, and I hate it.
I get how that's frustrating, and I agree with you. Like that's messed up. But in something like this, like they're like watching it with the subtitles, I was trying to think like to make it work and have it translate into English with them reading what's on the subtitles. You have to go back and re-edit the film, because there are moments where a lot of the dialogue in English is so long, but the shot of them talking is so short, and it's so tricky. And I think it's doable. And I think that there's the technology now with deep fakes, like where you can,
they're doing it. There's a
they're
company
doing
that
it.
does that.
I think we're at a point where this isn't going to be a problem much longer, Ryan.
Okay.
So what they're doing now is they're deep faking the words in English onto actors, and like you have to like go back and re-edit the film to extend those scenes just a hair, so that what you hear is lining up with what you see.
Yeah, it's a company called Flawless that's doing it for multiple, and they showed us a scene with Robert De Niro from whatever movie, and then showed it in French and showed it in Italian, and the lips match with the dubbing, and it's expensive, but yeah, there's a company that's trying to make waves in Hollywood to do that.
Okay, so
but that doesn't change the fact of what you're saying is if they're changing the words and they're changing the context and they're changing the actual conversation. I think you mentioned Squid Game. I love Squid Game, but there's like 3 different ways to watch that film. There's the original with subs, there's the English subs, and then there's the dub, and they're like 3 different movies. And that all comes when whoever does the dubbing really doesn't have any true connection to the film, and they don't care if it's accurate.
Yeah, and so this is what I mean. And this doesn't add any time. This does not add any time. So when they're down at the meeting, because both the families were at war, and there's the guy at the head of the table, and the dub is, if this continues, we will have to put an end to this. The text at the bottom of the screen. If this continues, we will have to disband both of your groups. That's different. That is to me, under context of a storyline, that is a world of difference.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like every single scene. It's countless that they did this throughout the whole movie. There are times when in the dub he says sir to people that he doesn't in the subtitles, and it's because he's a cop and he's not going to say sir to a criminal.
It's a tricky game because there's so much you have to balance with a dub. You have to balance the intention of the script, the intention of the director, and the performance of the actor on screen and the voice. So you have to find the balance, and it's tricky. And I'm sure that this one has its issues, but I can guarantee that there are a lot worse translations than this.
No. And I completely agree. And and this is the end of it. My opinion as a movie person who likes to watch these things, I might be an outlier. I don't care. I would rather, if the dialogue in English takes a second extra to say, I would rather hear the full English and the lips not move.
Sure.
For it to line up with what the director and the writer wanted intentionally for people to understand.
But then when you do that, you also have to take into account the edit, because you have to adjust the edit for that as well. It's a giant puzzle of something's got to give. And I hope that with this new technology that this isn't an issue in the future and they can go back and redo the dubs of things like this.
They did that same thing with Dragon Ball Z. It took them 3 years to get each season done because they would go through and erase their mouths and then redraw them.
Yeah.
For English. I watched the Frieza saga over 4 times in a row to get to the Cell saga on Cartoon Network because they needed to do that. I'm fine with taking as much time as they need to do that. Just do the work, then release it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it weird that this is the first use of deepfake where I'm not like, that's horrific?
Right.
This actually seems like a good use of it.
Yeah.
When you have some time, go on YouTube and look up Flawless's demo reel, and it is pretty intriguing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you asked about the end.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize about hijacking the whole thing.
I wanted to hear that. I was waiting for you to talk about that. So, I just love the ending. The 2 end scenes after we get that boss fight, we see Uko or Yuko, find find the bug and not know that it's Rama that put it there. He thinks it's this other dude, and he just takes out the shotgun and just kills everybody. And just the fact that Rama has gone through a whole warehouse of people. He went through 2 assassins and the boss, and now he's just diving behind a couch to not get shot by a shotgun. And then throws the knife and kills him close. And I thought I was like, I don't need this. I don't need them to fight. Nothing. It was a nice way to end that. And then just to watch this tired, exhausted man like walk back through his own carnage, only to find the other gang there. And they're so impressed that they're, it doesn't show you what they say, but you can guess that they're like, why don't you join us? And he's like, I'm done. I'm just done.
Yeah.
And that's the only and you hear this swelling music, which was great music. I remember the first time I heard it, I'm like, oh my God, this is so soothing after so much carnage. And then it cuts out just for him to say, I'm done. And it goes to black. And I thought that was just a fantastic way to end the film. I loved that editing choice. And it was just, I know there were talks about a possible Raid 3 and it never happened and it's not going to happen. But that was the perfect way to end this story. And I really did like it.
I was going to ask if there was going to be a Raid 3 because I was looking at Gareth Evans' IMDb and there's no Raid 3, but I did see that he has a movie coming out supposedly this year called Havoc.
He's done a few things after this, and they talked. He did do like an interview where he talked about his whole idea for Raid 3. Mm-hmm. But then he got offers to do other things. He's done a show called Gangs of London, which is fucking phenomenal. If you liked the choreography in this and you want to put it in another section of the world, Gangs of London is thrilling to watch. And he doesn't direct every episode, but the episodes he does direct, you can tell by the fight choreography alone. There's a brutal house invasion scene by like an army of dudes with machine guns and then a few folks trying to stay alive, and the camera work on it is just amazing. So that show is great. And then there is talk about doing an American remake of The Raid, and I'm just like, no, it's not necessary. But I would love a Raid 3, but not because I felt like this left me unsatisfied. It was so well done as an ending. And also about that ending, when you see his cop guy trying to get there, and then the camera pans and it's not his cop friend, it's this whole other army, and you're like, God, please don't make him fight this whole other army. That whole end was great to me.
Oh, loved it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing his next movie. This Havoc looks good. It's got Tom Hardy, Forrest Whitaker, Timothy Oliphant, and Luis Guzman. So,
I've not heard of this.
You had me at Luis Guzman. So,
and he's I guess I could have figured this out and I didn't look it up, but he's a Welsh filmmaker that somehow did this Indonesian film as his first, really thing that put him on the map. And it's like, how did this happen? I want to know just that. Like, how did you get to this part of the world and then make this type of film that left that country and blew up in everywhere else? Like, there's tons of Indonesian films that never ever make it out of that country, and the fact that he did this so well that it blew up, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's impressive. I'd love to hear that story. I'll have to look into that. Anything else on the Raid 2 before we wrap this up?
Well, since I never got my sequel to Dread 2, from Dread, I'm just going to consider this the sequel to Dread. I'm just going to, in my mind, pretend that it's the actor from Dread. It's him, and then just let it go there.
If the news from this weekend has taught us anything, never give up hope on a sequel, because Keanu Reeves is getting a Constantine 2. So
I cannot wait. I cannot wait. And did we do that one? I forget if we did or not.
I've never seen it. I own it on Blu-ray because it came with a triple pack with Watchmen and V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
So,
man,
I would say, even though you saw the sequel, if you're ever like, I need more of that style of action and the camera work, go back and watch The Raid.
I plan on it.
I'm going to.
There's just as many and cringe moments in the fighting in that film, and interestingly enough, the boss fight in that film, this was one thing that people thought was kind of interesting the way they did it. So there's a scene in Raid 2 that's kind of not really about the plot, but it was interesting. It was that nightclub fight with the long-haired dude. That was one of the things that I love in this movie. But if you took that whole thing out of the film, other than establishing how badass the boss is, it really doesn't lend that much to the film, so they could have cut it a little bit if they took that out. That dude plays the boss in Raid 1, and it's not the same character. It's the same actor, and so when everybody saw him in the Raid 2, they were like, wait, I thought we killed this guy, and that's why they made him look so different. He's got longer hair, he looks like he's homeless, but he is a different character. But his boss fights in the first film are amazing. Imagine Rama and another badass cop going 2-on-1 with that dude, and it's so close quarters, so the fighting is a little different, and it's more brutal. But there's so many things in that first film that I love so much that I highly recommend you go check it out.
Yeah, I plan on it. It's on HBO Max, so I'm definitely going to check that out before it goes away. So, nice. All right, Josh, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you?
You can find me and Alan at New York Comic Con in a couple weeks.
Yep.
New York City, Javits Center will be there. Otherwise, Fierce Literature, or fiercelit.com and socials, and I'm out there.
All right. New York Comic Con is going to be fun. As far as we go, we will be live this Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern as part of Victims and Villains Pledge Drive, their annual Halloween-themed pledge drive. Devin and I have some fun things planned. Ryan can't make it, so we'll hold down the fort. We've got some fun conversations planned for you. We're going to be talking about movie trilogies and playing some trivia games. So it'll be a lot of fun. So make sure to tune in for that. That'll be on Victims and Villains Twitch channel and nowhere else. So make sure to tune in for that. You can listen to You Have to Watch This podcast on all major podcasting platforms. You can watch us live on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. And you can visit our website, rumrunnerspodcastnetwork.com, to check out our show and all the other Rum Runners Podcast Network podcasts. Until next time, Josh, thank you again. Oh, wait, I forgot. Ryan, next week is your pick. What are you having us watch?
Yes. Well, I'm going to let you guys pick. A or B?
B.
Yeah, B.
B? Okay.
Yeah.
Any Given Sunday. It's football season.
Ooh.
And I can guarantee neither of you have seen that.
I have not.
I haven't seen it. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
All right,
So
cool.
I'm also willing to bet it's gonna be Devin's gonna like it. I guarantee it.
Well, tune in next Tuesday for Any Given Sunday. Until then, for You Have to Watch This podcast, I'm Alan.